Okay, so I would like to open the floor to the panelists. So we're going to be starting with the question, when I say wellness, what does that mean to you?
Yeah,
Is it open
so
for
go ahead.
everyone, by the way? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so when I think wellness, I think, kind of full body, mind, soul, right? Kind of harmony, more than just kind of surviving, right? It's kind of you're at this like golden well-being, body, soul, mind.
To piggyback
Oh,
off of that,
sorry.
sorry, I don't want to talk over
Go
everybody else.
ahead.
When I think of wellness, I just think of like good health. And when I think of good health, I think of all aspects of health being intellectual, social, spiritual, emotional, physical, and trying to maintain a balance within those. And I think especially during a time like this, where it kind of makes you question a lot of those aspects of your own health. And it kind of makes you have to dig deep and kind of like think about, okay, how am I going to maintain a balance with my wellness, even though I'm very off balance, right? And it's kind of finding that balance within that imbalance. So, and kind of going off of that as well, it's like, I hope that, I don't know, I'm going to go with this. I think I want to lead into the next question, but I'm going to leave people to answer this first question. So,
So wellness for me, it's of course taking care of my physical, my mental, my spiritual, and the way like I'm feeling my emotional states. I feel like for me, I have to be like stable, have a stable mindset, and be okay with my feelings. Because or else I've like noticed from time to time, like if I'm feeling sad or angry, my body starts getting sick. I don't get enough energy, so the way I try to help myself is just like, you know, try to like convince myself, like, these times that we're going through, instead of saying, oh, another day of COVID-19, I'm like, okay, well, we're one day closer to getting a solution for this, trying to see it in a positive perspective to motivate myself more.
For me, so when I think about wellness, I think about it in two ways. At least right now, I'm thinking about it in two ways. So I think about it individually as myself, and I also think about it as a person who thrives in community. And of course, given our situation, community looks completely different. So like Jake had mentioned, wellness for me is like mind, body, spirit alignment. So maybe I'll get that through taking a nap. Or if I sleep in for the day, I'm not going to beat myself up, or at least try not to, because that'll affect my mental health, right? It also affects my emotional health. But when I think about wellness and community, I think about connecting with people who are reflections of me and who I'm also a reflection of. So how can I connect with my friend Leilani, even though we're far away? Who's going to be FaceTime because neither one of us wants to do text messaging. So I also see wealth as like this abundance, like what can I get and give to my community, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's just with my friends, whether it's with my spouse, my parents. So I look at wellness in those two ways, individually and also what I have to offer.
Thank you all for sharing. And so I want to lead on to the next question of how can you help others see wellness in a different way? If they are not seeing it in a way that is helpful for.
Jack, can you repeat the last part? You said it got cut off when you muted, please.
Oh, sorry. Like how do you help others see wellness in a different way if they are not seeing it in a way that is healthy or helpful?
Yeah, I've had this a lot with my students this semester. The transition has been incredibly rough for so many people of so many different communities, of various backgrounds. And one of the things I've been telling them is that they need to not try to normalize an abnormal situation, right? We're in a crisis. This isn't normal. Having to switch classes from in-person to online is not normal. Trying to figure out how to function in an online class when you've never taken one because of a pandemic is not normal. And that's okay. Asking for an extension or more clarification because you're a different type of learner is totally acceptable, right? And I've been trying to really push that message with my students that it's okay. Like, so I teach rec comp, and we talk a lot about genre and rec comp and genre implications. And the genre of an online student pre-COVID-19 was different than what it is now. It was a different type of audience, a different type of student that would take an online class. And that's been all, like, none of the online teaching pedagogy even really matches anymore because you're not teaching to traditional online students now. It's people who've been thrust into this role. And I think it's really important to have people, whether it's students, people working in jobs from home, or maybe you don't have a necessary job that you're able to work right now and you're furloughed or any type of thing. It's okay to feel those feelings and to be in that space without beating yourself up.
So for me, it's similar to Tori. If it's in the classroom or it's just online, since we're all interacting online with each other, I always make a point to indicate, to students, to people in the classroom, like, I hope you are taking care of yourself in the way that looks best for you. Like, personally, even if I'm the instructor, I cannot control what somebody else does for them. So that sense of wellness is based on our individual needs, right? So for me, I may go for a walk, but for somebody in the class, that may not work. So wellness has to be geared towards what somebody personally needs. As a person who's also a playwright and a writer, when it comes to wellness and representing somebody, a Black person, so I identify as a Black cis queer person. So when it comes to representing an aspect of Black people or Black women on stage, which are usually the characters I create, I always make sure there's a celebration, because there's so many anti-Black images, messages about Black people, where there's this one mountain and all Black people exist there, according to the narrative that we constantly receive. So in my own work, wellness looks like celebration. Wellness looks like conversation. If so, there may be bantering, like talking junk, somebody may fail, but there's other people who are going to help lift each other up. So in my own work outside of the classroom, it's always about community. It's always about celebration. Because there's going to be discord, but within that discord or that connection to other people, there's always something that people can learn. There's always something beautiful or joyous. There's always something to take away from it. So that's how I project what I think wellness is.
All right, we will go on to the next question. Thank you guys so much for sharing. What things do you all draw strength from?
My students really have been giving me a lot of strength lately, just their perseverance, their grit, their determination, their tenacity. They've faced 2020 has been like, there's this meme, right, that's floating around where it's like if 2020 was a slide and the slide has been photoshopped with a cheese grater for them to go down, right? And it's like that image comes to mind, and how my students have just persevered, right? They are just like, they're sticking with it. They're prioritizing their work and managing work and anxiety and stress in a way that I don't know that I could have as a student in their shoes. And it's inspiring, and it gives me strength. And I find myself looking, so one of my big motivations for getting out of bed in the morning, right? Because it's very easy to fall into these kind of bouts of sadness, lethargic days and moments. And my students are what get me out of bed. I think, they're counting on me, I'm counting on them, and we're in this together, we're stronger together. And that's really been my like rock, is just like getting my students through the day who are getting me through the day.
Similar when it comes to the people in my class, I always, or at least I try to remember to say, like, I'm enthusiastic when something shows up in Canvas. I don't know if y'all use Blackboard or Canvas, but the fact that students are doing the best they can to show up, complete work, you know, still follow these normal guidelines while we're experiencing something that is completely abnormal, that is very encouraging for me. I don't get paid to just chill out. Students don't get paid to just chill out with grades. So that's one area that I draw strength from. I draw strength from my spouse. Like, we both are students of drum and dance culture, West African drum and dance culture. So the ability to tap into something that is innately mine, whether it's lamba, which is a rhythm that's about celebration of a baby being born, or graduation, or transferring, you know, or the completion of this Pride week that y'all put on. Like, we would do lamba, like it's something uplifting. So I draw a lot of strength from being able to be a student, a student studying a culture that seems removed, but is not innately removed, you know? Or maybe something more tangible that can be like Googled. There's a podcast called Hood Rat to Head Rap by Erica Hart and Ebony Donnelly. It's a decolonized podcast. I listen to their conversations frequently and try to unpack my own stuff, you know, areas where there may be some, like discord internally that I need to work through. I draw strength from writings by friends such as Anastasia Renee, Ashaki Jackson, my parents. Thankfully, as a queer identified person, I have a relationship with my parents, so I draw a lot of strength from them. And then also just to be here with you all. I mean, this was like my motivator for today, you know, so thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming me. There's so many areas to draw strength from. Even the neighbor next door. I mean, we live in a 8-unit complex, and everybody talks to each other. Not like I'm gonna go ask for some sugar, but just, hey, how you doing? You know, I see you. It's just being able to see each other is how I draw strength from people, from community, and how I try to return it.
I guess I could say personally, like at the moment, I'm trying to draw like strength from like my goals. I honestly like um I'm trying to make this story short. So like when I was 11, I moved to the US to live with my mom, and like living in this house, it has never really been a pleasant environment. So like I still like have challenges with that. So like uh what pushes me to, you know, continue is so I can like have a stable job with my degree, and you know, just have a better life later on. And yeah, that's mainly where I draw strength from.
Okay, so we'll go on to another question. Have any of you guys picked up hobbies recently? Are there any hobbies that you're enjoying since everything has gone online?
So for Christmas this year, my aunt got my husband and I just this like really small, like little like 4-pod arrow garden for indoor gardening. And my husband and I are so obsessed with it. We bought like 1 billion more, and now we have this like full garden going. We're both vegetarian, so we've been like making like salad wraps and like all this really fun things from the garden. It's so much fun. I'm like obsessed with it. They're like my children, but I eat them, so it's kind of weird. But like I'm obsessed with it right now.
I've kind of like I've been having hobbies for a while. Like I play instruments such as the piano and the guitar, and I make art, I paint, I draw, and I also write from time to time, like poems or stories. And during quarantine, I've been able to pick up more on painting. So I have like a huge canvas, and like I didn't want, like, at the beginning, I didn't want to go out and buy small canvases because I wanted to start doing like small portraits. So what I did, I like put tape on my big canvas and like cut out sections, try to be creative, like one day a week, try to like paint something different, like, oh, the weeks during quarantine, I look at it and see what I went through. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm getting to blending. The first couple of attempts were bad, but I'm getting there. I'm improving.
I think so. Since COVID-19, I'm a reader, but being a teacher, there's no time to read. So recently, I've been trying to spend more time reading. I think one of the books I finished was what is it called? I have it right here. It's The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Junauda Petrus. So I finished that book. So I'm so used to, like you all are in student body government, being outward. So this time has allowed me just to be inward and do some reading. I also been taking, what do you call them? West African drum and dance classes online, which is not extremely thrilling, but it can be thrilling because, it looks like this, like these patterns, this gallery view, but everybody's trying to listen for the rhythm, listen for the call, and learn these dance steps. So that's something I've learned to, try to participate in community, even though it's at a distance, which for me has been, is both pleasurable and very challenging because I'm used to like everybody engaging. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll do one more question and then we'll have a big group discussion. Are there any challenges that any of you are still trying to adapt to right now? If you're willing to share.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, so one of the big challenges I'm having, and my poor husband sees this all the time, is because I'm at home and because I'm in my pajamas all day and because I'm comfortable, my work days tend to turn into work nights, which turn into work late nights, which turn into early work mornings. And that's 7 days a week. I've had a really hard time giving myself breaks. I've struggled with eating consistent meals. I tend to just work through lunch and work through dinner and work through breakfast. And I think that's very much an adjunct behavior just because we're used to hustling. I know Librette and I, like, we hustle at DH together, right? It's boom, boom, boom. I think that adds into it, just kind of part of that hustle mentality. The more efficiently you can get through something, the more easily you can manage the 9+ classes you're teaching that fall, right? And it becomes very much that dance. And so I've been trying really hard to go, okay, I'm not gonna answer emails after like 7 o'clock, or I'm gonna take Saturday for a me day. And I've been trying with varying levels of success, because I say I'll do it and then there I am again at 10 at night answering emails. But that's been a struggle I've been having. My other struggle is I really miss my family. This is the longest I've gone without seeing them. I have a really big Italian Croatian family, and this has been a very long time without them. So that's been really rough for me, especially with kind of like the big Catholic holidays that have come and passed, right? Big Catholic family, that it's just like stuff I'm used to. It's like that kind of cycle, and I'm like, oh, it's been a minute. Yeah, that's what I've been struggling with lately.
For me, I think at least two things come to mind. So being at home, it's very, at least for me personally speaking, it's very easy to stay in because I'm not someone who often stays in the house. Like Tori, I'm always ripping and running. But since I'm less mobile, I've gained weight. So one of the internal struggles is not to be fat phobic, right? So I think all body sizes, people work with what they got. So I'm going to work with what I have. So that's the internal struggle, to not be fat phobic and also just celebrate myself. On the outside, I think the challenge is still thinking about the continuous deaths that of Black people, trans, cis, just Black identified folks, and thinking about the deaths that are uplifted, which usually are cis Black men, the deaths that are not uplifted, and the deaths that we don't hear about. So I live on a street in Long Beach, and the protesters beautifully, peacefully came down the street, just gorgeous, so emotionally evoking for me. But then the challenge I have to think about is people are texting me, am I going to check in? Do I feel like explaining? How do I process this beauty that I see, knowing that it may not continue to live on? So it's like, what can I do on my own to contribute in this form of justice that these hundreds of people are doing as they protest in the streets? There's this essence of what Patrice Colors, the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, talks about is this grieving publicly. So the challenge is, do I want to grieve publicly? If I don't grieve publicly, what are other ways that how can I utilize this grief, in a way that is sustainable? So those are like two main challenges, or maybe that was three, that I continue to work through.
Yeah,
The challenges I'm sorry. The challenges that I've been facing during this quarantine is mostly not having like a studying environment and having my private space. Like I went from going to school every single day, even the weekends, and studying with my friends, to like being home. And being home, like I have two younger siblings. We all share the same room, so like they're very energetic, so they're always like running around, yelling, and even if I have my headphones on, like sometimes like it's just impossible, because like I've also babysitted them, so I kind of was like a second mom, like a part-time mom. So it's like sometimes I have that in the back of my head. I need to check up on them. It's just a lot. And also not being able to interact with my peers. All my friends are majoring in something within the engineering field, and it's just like it's been really, really, really difficult for me to be proactive. And well, this past week, and another challenge that I've been facing is about like the worry about my friends, my community. As y'all can see, the protests that are happening. I went on the protest on Saturday. It was very peaceful. I was there until like it got like really bad. Sorry for crying. But yeah, it's like I'm constantly on social media, posting information, posting about the curfews and all that, because I want to make sure that people are safe, and it's just like, that's like so overwhelming that kind of like I kind of fall off the wagon when it comes to studying, and it's just like right now, it's like even harder to focus on school when there's so many things happening,
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off them, right? Like, I think that this situation really reminds me, like in terms of public grieving, of the Pulse nightclub shootings, right? Where different queer people were processing these deep feelings in different ways. And there was a lot of infighting, right? With, well, you're not grieving in the same way I am, so you're not as good as me, was a big like dialogue that was happening when people were processing this in so many different ways, right? That some of that might be going out there and protesting, and some is internal, right? There's so many feelings to ride and feel, and I think the best thing we can do in these situations and do what is authentic to us as the individual. If that is going out and marching, go out and march. If that is being an anxious mess and internalizing everything, work through those feelings, right? Talk them out, write them out in a journal, right? Breathe, work on breathing exercises. I think that your individual experience is what matters, right? So whatever makes you feel the most safe, the most secure, and feels like your voice is being heard is what you should do, versus what society might be trying to bully or convince you to do.
Yeah, I think to add on to what Tori's saying, at least for me, I've learned over time to do what works best for me. Like, we're all affiliated with the college, right? And so the word college or university or has, you know, different meanings, but what does that mean for us individually? Where are the privileges that we can access? What information do I need for myself to help sustain my wellness? What does that look like for me, right? And sometimes it just takes practice. We may not know. I don't always know. I'm still learning. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But you know, it's like it takes a cultivation, just giving it a little attention at a time. Yeah. And for those of you that shed tears, I just want to acknowledge your tears and say that it is okay to cry. I just appreciate being in this space with you all. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to kind of call Jack out just a teeny tiny bit. Jack, when we were prepping this, Jack was like, oh, what do I do if I cry? And I was like, you cry. Crying is a valid emotion. Feel it. Feel those feelings, right? If you feel like crying, being happy is not better than being sad. If you can laugh on camera, you can cry on camera. I saw that from Sarah. That is not my quote. But if you can laugh on camera, you can cry on camera, and you are allowed to feel all of those feelings.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the panelists for sharing and for telling your truth. So we're going to break out into 3 breakout rooms, and then afterwards we will come back together and share a bit about what we've learned.